So today we're going to be trying to figure out how to find the equation of a line between 2 points. So we'll start with 1, 5 and 2, 7. These are two coordinates that I know are on the line. So the first thing I want to do always is going to be find the slope. So if you remember from previous videos, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I always like to identify my x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to go back over here to my points, and I'm going to label the first point x1, y1, because our coordinates are always x, y. And the second coordinates I'm going to label x2, y2. This will make it easier when I go to plug in my values. So let's take a look now. Slope's going to equal y2, which is 7, minus y1, which is 5, over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 1. So from here, I just need to simplify. So 7 minus 5 is 2, over 2 minus 1 is 1. So I know my slope is equal to 2. Our next step is going to be to find the y-intercept. So when finding the y-intercept, I want to find the general equation of a line, and we're going to use y equals a plus bx, where a is the y-intercept and b is the slope. So I need to find some values that can plug into this equation or substitute into this equation so I can solve for a. So we just solved for our slope up here, so I know I have b. And at the top I have two coordinates, 2 points that have an x, y value in them. So I'm going to choose the first point. I'd like to put a little check mark above it just so I know what's getting substituted and which thing I'm going to stick with. So for y, I'm going to plug in the y value in that coordinate. So it will be 5. Bring down my equal sign. I didn't do anything to that a yet. I know that my slope is positive 2. So I'm going to put a plus 2. And then if I look back up at my coordinate, I know I have an x value of 1. So I'm going to plug in a 1 for x, or substitute a 1 for x. So now I have to simplify. I didn't do anything to this 5, so I'm going to bring that straight down. I'll bring down my equal sign. I didn't do anything to the a yet, so that'll come straight down. And now I can simplify positive 2 times 1 by multiplying. So 2 times 1 is positive 2. From here, I'm going to need to do a little work to get rid of that positive 2 on the side with a. So to undo adding 2 to a, I'm going to subtract 2. And if I do it to one side of an equation, I have to do it to the other side of the equation. This leaves me with 3 equals a. So now I have everything I need to make an equation. So the third step is going to be to put it all together. So the y equals my a, which we figured out was 3, my slope, which we figured out was positive 2, and then my x goes with the slope. So all I did was substitute my values that I solved for slope and y-intercept into that general equation. So let's try one more. All of our steps are going to be exactly the same. So the first step will be to find the slope. So let's label our points. I'm going to switch it up this time because order really doesn't matter. So I'm going to make this negative 6 for x1, y1. And I'm going to make this x2, y2. So from here, let's plug in our values. y2 is negative 1. So I know my slope is going to equal negative 1 minus y1. Now y1 already has a negative, so I need to include that. A mistake a lot of people make is that they see it's a negative 4, so they just forget about the minus sign. You can't do that. That's a big deal. So make sure you write your minus sign and then go back to your point and figure out what your y value is that you're going to substitute. So for the top, it'll be negative 1 minus negative 4. So then for the bottom, it's going to be x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is negative 6. Again, I wrote my negative sign and then put negative 6. So when we simplify here, we're going to get negative 1 plus 4, because a negative times a negative gives me positive, so you can really turn both of those negatives into positive. That would give me 3 over 3 minus negative 6. Again, negative times a negative is a positive, will give me 9. So it's best to always reduce to lowest terms. So 3/9 in lowest terms is going to be 1/3. Next step, find the y-intercept. So again, we're given the general form of a line, y equals a plus bx, and I'm going to need to choose a point. So I'm going to select the first point, 3, -1, and I know I have a slope that I can use. Down here we just found it was 1/3. So let's substitute. My y value in the point I selected was -1, so my y will be -1. I'll bring down my equal sign because I didn't do anything with that. I'll bring down my a because I didn't do anything with that. My slope is a positive 1/3. And my x in that coordinate is 3. So again, let's simplify. -1 equals a. And now I have a positive 1/3 times 3, which gives me a positive 1. And now I have a little work to do. So I need to get a by itself. So to do that, I would subtract 1 from both sides, which would give me a value of -2 equals a. So last but not least, let's put it all together. Y equals my y-intercept of -2. My slope is positive 1/3 x. So let's try one more. For this set of points, we have 4, 1 and -4, 7. First step is to find the slope, so let's label our points. I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find the slope. y2 is 7 minus y1 is 1 over x2 is -4 minus x1 is 4. So when we simplify here, we're going to get 6 over -8, which then simplifies to -3/4. So let's now plug in our values to our general equation. I need to pick a point that I want to use, so I'm going to use the first point, 4, 1. So I'm going to substitute my y value of 1 for y. 1 equals, I didn't do anything to my a, so I'm going to bring that straight down. Now my slope is -3/4, so I'm going to write -3/4. You can also write plus -3/4, but I don't like to double up my signs, so it's easier for me to write -3/4. Whichever way makes you feel better is totally fine. I then have to substitute my x value, which is 4. So we're going to simplify again. Bring down my 1 equals a. -3 over 4 times 4 is really -3. So now I'm going to have to solve for a. I'll add 3, and then I'll add 3 on the other side because it's always got to be balanced, which will give me 4 equals a. So when we put it all together, y equals my y-intercept of 4. My slope is a -3/4, so I do -3/4 x.